Hi guys, Chester Westerford here. So recently I came out with my top 10 list of films that I saw in 2023. There were a lot of good films last year, and there looks to be a lot of good films coming out this year as well. So without further ado, here is my list of the films I am most anticipating in 2024. This list is going to be in order of release date, not necessarily in order of how excited I am, because I can't decide, and release date's just easier. So, first on the list, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, March 29th. Originally slated for a 2023 release, it actually made my most anticipated list last year too. Just goes to show how changeable these things are. Any of these dates could change at any moment. I really liked what they did with Afterlife. I liked the new cast. I'm glad the new cast is returning, and the old cast. And I like that it's going back to New York, and that we're getting away from Gozer. I mean, that made sense for Afterlife since, legacy and all to bring her back, but I'm curious to see where new directions the series could go in. Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire, April 12th. For the most part, I've really enjoyed what Legendary has done with the MonsterVerse. It had a bit of a weak start with Godzilla, but Skull Island was definitely an improvement. It really got going though, in my opinion, with King of the Monsters and Godzilla vs. Kong. Monarch, Legacy of Monsters has also been really good so far. It's a show on Apple TV Plus if you haven't seen it yet. If Godzilla vs. Kong continues this trend of quality, then we're in for a really good time. If, May 17th. Written and directed by John Krasinski, and starring Ryan Reynolds, Steve Carell, and, well, all these other people, the story focuses on a young girl who learns she can see other people's imaginary friends, also known as IFs. The trailer for this one presents what appears to be a rather imaginative film with musical numbers? I do love a good musical number, and I love imaginative family films that focus on childhood and things like imaginary friends. Just looks like a really charming time. The Garfield Movie, May 24th. I've always been a big fan of Garfield. When I was a kid, I loved getting the comics collections out of the library, watching the Christmas special every year. So when I heard a new Garfield movie was coming out, I was understandably excited. I am a bit trepidatious for this one. Chris Pratt's voice in the trailer, I don't know how I feel about it, but maybe I'll get used to it. Also, a story about the estranged father seems like an odd cliche to use in the first new era of Garfield films, but still, it's Garfield, but I'm sure it'll be fun no matter what. Inside Out 2, June 14th. Yeah, Disney and Pixar haven't exactly been completely up to snuff lately, but Inside Out was really good, so I'm hoping this can be a return to form for the studio. Beetle Juice 2, September 6th. After a very successful stint over at Netflix with Wednesday, one of my all-time favorite directors returns to the big screen with a sequel I never thought was going to happen. While the original Beetlejuice definitely has its problems, I always liked the ideas behind it. In my opinion, it just wasn't as executed as good as it could have been. It's not one of Burton's best films. However, it was one of his earliest films, and he has only grown as a filmmaker since then, so I'm really curious to see how he goes about it now as opposed to then. Oh, and speaking of Wednesday, Jenna Ortega's in it. She's a really good actress that seems to work very well within the worlds of the strange and unusual, so that just makes it even more exciting in my book. Wolfman, October 25th. Universal has many times attempted to reboot its classic monsters, sometimes successfully, sometimes not so much. Their most recently successful attempt, both financially and critically, was Blumhouse's The Invisible Man. As a matter of fact, Universal's team-ups with Blumhouse have been highly successful for them lately in general, so it just seems logical to team up once again. The Wolfman was announced a few years ago and has gone through a few development changes. It was originally a Ryan Gosling film, but he has apparently left the cast. I think he's still staying on as executive producer, and he's being replaced by actor Christopher Abbott. The film is being co-written and directed by longtime Blumhouse collaborator and Invisible Man director Lee Winnell. All I can say is the Wolfman is possibly my favorite Universal monster, so they better get this right. Wicked, Part 1, November 27th. The classic Broadway musical is coming to the big screen. I've always loved musicals, and The Wizard of Oz, which is a musical come to think of it. Need I say more? Not really. That's about all I have to say on this one. Except I'm really intrigued to see Jeff Goldblum as the wizard. That's one of those castings that I never personally would have thought of, but after hearing it, yeah, it really makes sense. The biggest disappointment about this one is that it didn't come on October 4th, 2013, and so it couldn't beat another certain film, thereby defying gravity. I'll see myself out. The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, December 13th. Reportedly an anime, I think, based on J.R.R. Tolkien's works and set 183 years before The Lord of the Rings. this could end up being really good. It could also end up being middling, like some other Middle-earth projects lately. But, I like Lord of the Rings. I love Tolkien, so we'll see how this one goes. I'm looking forward to it. Sonic the Hedgehog 3, December 20th. Even though I've never once played any Sonic the Hedgehog game, yeah, I wasn't really a gaming kid, I really enjoyed both of the previous entries in the series, and with the same director and writers returning for the third installment, that seems to be an indication that the quality will continue. Okay, last one here is an honorable mention. NOS Fatu. It's an honorable mention because I'm going to need a trailer at least before I decide if it's worth seeing. Modern day vampire films are pretty hit and miss these days. I had 2 Dracula films on my most anticipated list last year, and, yeah, that didn't turn out so well. However, the image released the other day of Willem Dafoe as a vampire hunter really has me intrigued, so we'll see how it goes. So there's my list. What are your most anticipated movies of 2024? Let me know in the comments below. Maybe there's one that I missed that I'll really like because you guys suggested it. You never know. So let me know, as I say. Take care, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.